North Korea has fired what's thought to have been a ballistic missile into the Sea of Japan. It comes on the eve of the meeting between the presidents of China and the United States, where North Korea and what to do in response to its nuclear program and missile testing will be on the agenda. But agendas are the easy business. Solutions are much tougher. And Christopher Hill, former US ambassador to South Korea and the head of the US delegation at the six-party talks aimed at resolving the North Korean nuclear crisis, says this is complex, difficult and crucial diplomacy.
Well, it's a very tough issue, and frankly, there are no good options. Certainly, part of any solution needs to be better cooperation with China, but I think that's kind of gone in the wrong direction, where the Chinese suggest the U.S. has to do it all, and the U.S. suggests the Chinese need to do it all. And in fact, really, there needs to be a level of cooperation, and let's see if that's at all possible when President Xi Jinping meets with Donald Trump at the end of this week.
Yes, it's an unlikely pairing, isn't it, President Xi and President Trump? But on so many levels, it simply has to work. And with North Korea, they both have something to lose, don't they? The US with an increasingly vociferous and unpredictable nuclear enemy. China with the fact that North Korea is a buffer zone between it and South Korea, which of course is a strong allegiance with the United States. Do the Chinese actually want to help here?
I think the Chinese need to understand this is a really first echelon issue. It's not going to go away on its own. And there's no U.S. president who can face the American people and say that North Korea developed a deliverable nuclear weapon on his watch. So the Chinese need to understand that the American administration can't just sit on this issue. They have to do something. The problem is doing something isn't all that appealing. I think, first of all, there needs to be an understanding that China absolutely needs to implement the various sanctions. There's been some good news in that department. The Chinese have refused to buy any North Korean coal for the rest of the year. But I think China needs to do more to deny their financial sector to the North Koreans and to stop trading with them and otherwise carrying on a normal relationship. At the same time, I think the U.S. needs to understand that China has its concerns about North Korea. Were North Korea to somehow implode, however that would happen, the Chinese would be worried. Would that mean they'd have U.S. troops on their border, that they would have a perception that the U.S. has won and China has lost? So I think there needs to be some a sort of deep dive in what that would look like and what U.S. interests would be and what they would not be.
You've said elsewhere that there simply isn't a military response. One, North Korea is a nuclear state and developing its capabilities there. Two, they have a very old-fashioned artillery defence line which could just destroy South Korea in a matter of hours. So that's simply not an option that can be destroyed. But there's a humanitarian disaster to be avoided too, isn't there? Because the North Korean people have no say in their leadership whatsoever. And economic sanctions mustn't imperil them.
I think it's always been important to carve out humanitarian assistance for precisely that reason. There needs to be an effort to feed these people. North Koreans are, as a population, malnourished. They are several centimeters smaller than their South Korean cousins. They're much smaller in their height, et cetera, their weight. So there is a real concern that you could be creating a sort of humanitarian problem if you try to go after food supplies and things like that. I think one has to kind of run the risk that the North Korean government might abuse this kind of assistance, because I think the humanitarian needs of its people are truly compelling.
Christopher Hill.